everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. You're very welcome to our review show, and we're looking back at the first weekend of championship action. I'm delighted to be joined by former Armagh and Drummond team goalkeeper Philly McEvoy, and we're going to discuss all the games, or as much as we can, from a mental first weekend. Just before we start, big thanks to Capture Athletics coming on board as our official sponsor for the duration of the championship, and a big thank you to Kieran Lynch as well. He compiled a couple of interviews over the weekend. And we want to hear from Stefan Campbell from Clonagale with Clevey duo Conor O'Neill and Shea Magill coming up. And then we'll hear from Sean McCarthy from Clonairon at the end of the show as well. So thanks to everybody for helping out this week. Philly, as I said, it was a big weekend. There's 22 games on. It was hard to cover everything. And as our preview show, we'll sort of just stay with the senior championship here. And we'll discuss those games. And I suppose the big one from the weekend, and from the outset, it was probably the big tie of the weekend, was in David Park. It was Clonagale and Cross McGlen. Finished in a draw in the most dramatic of circumstances. Cross were winning by 4. Clonagale got a point, but they needed a goal, obviously. And Shane McParland, who scored 1-7, come up with the goods with a flick goal, literally with the last touch of the game. So a big point for Clonagale when it didn't look likely.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose historically speaking, down through the years, Clans versus Cross would be a titanic battle at the time. So it threw up another titanic tussle, I suppose, at the weekend. Judging by what I've heard from the match itself, from guys who were there, Clans put up a fierce contest the whole way through. It looked like Cross kind of just got the better of them in terms of when they went 4 up or whatever. Certainly looked as if Clans had given their all at that stage and just came up a little short. But fair play to them, they stuck it out and won 1 or whatever. And very late on with the last play of the game and big high ball into the square. That gave them a 90 boost, not only just from the other night, but also moving into the fixtures ahead, knowing that they took the reigning champions to a draw in their own patch there will give them a massive boost going forward, into next week, in the next 2 weekends, really. For Cross, Cross will brush that off, no problem at all. They'll be disappointed, I suppose, the night throwing away a point or whatever, but their focus will be on next week's match and then later on the championship too. But yeah, great start for Clans, fair play to them. It would have been easy to put up a good display there and just let the last few minutes wind out or whatever. But credit to them, they pushed hard, got their point, and that sets them up pretty nicely there. Then going ahead into next week's fixtures.
I suppose something like that, Philly, getting a goal and getting a point in the last couple of minutes till earn a draw, it nearly feels like a win when you're going into the changing rooms and everybody's in good spirits, and that carries into Tuesday night. And while it was only a point they picked up, it's a huge momentum boost for them heading into the next weekend.
And that's exactly it. It'll feel like a win, and bouncing off the pitch, really, especially in the circumstances that they got to draw. That's exactly nail in the head when you go into the change rooms after a game like that. It fully feels like a win, and just in terms of you're unbeaten and everything else after the first game after playing the reigning champions, that could do wonders for your confidence too. Whilst it was probably the biggest game of the weekend for most, perhaps Drummond Clevey for myself, but for many it was the biggest game of the weekend. And a lot of people would have still expected the Cross to go down, albeit down at David Park. They probably still expect the Cross to get the win. So a nice boost for them, and it should be as influential in the game as ever. And those fans seem to have going forward. They'll not be scared of anyone else. The message is supposed to be on the Cross.
I suppose Clonagale, the big thing for them is the 2 home games, and if you can win your home games, or as it turned out, getting a point against the reigning champions, that it's a good start, and it's maybe a foot into at least the playoffs.
That's it, yeah. And I suppose in the other group there, Mullavan are starting to get Mullavan too. So that was the 2 1B teams there getting positive results the weekend, which is the only 2 1B teams across the whole championship that actually got the positive results. So that group more than any other really is way open there, really. And Mullavan was disappointed after getting the defeat. The only team from 1A actually experienced the defeat, but they're not certainly not out of it either. They have a home game coming up next weekend, and they'll be focusing on that, getting back to winning ways, wherever they're getting themselves off the mark. And you know what? It's only the first weekend, and regardless of the result this weekend, I know from a team person that's the kind of mindset I'm taking. There's still 2 games to go, so anything can happen over the next 2 weekends as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of football still to be played, Philly, before anything happens. As I mentioned, we spoke to Stefan Campbell after the game, and he spoke to Kieran Lynch after Clonagale earned a draw against Cross. So we'll hear from Stefan now, and then we'll move on to a few of the other games.
Stefan, it was tough going out there, obviously. Just I sort of want to start off at the end of the game there. Did you ever lose faith or lose hope that it wasn't going to be your night?
No, we didn't lose belief, but to be honest, I just thought the game was sort of drifting away with a few harsh calls against. But the boys showed character, and that was with a lot of senior players maybe not showing up on the night. It took a lot of youth to drive us on there at the end. And we got a great goal, a lovely ball in from Callum. But no, to answer your question, we didn't lose faith, no.
Yeah, and I suppose coming into the game against Crossmaglen, everybody knows who Cross are, what they've done, reigning champions. You must have been chomping at the bit to get out here in front of a home crowd tonight.
Yeah, it's probably the first time a lot of the boys have had a championship game in the club. The Cross coming to town, you know, you don't want anyone else in the county.
Yeah,
reigning champions. If you can't get up for this one, you feel you can't get up for anything.
Yeah, and just on the game then, it felt, throughout the game was fairly tit for tat. Were you a little bit disappointed to not be ahead at half time? We were doing the commentary for the game. We felt maybe Clonagale probably were the better team in the first half, but just didn't show on the scoreline.
Yeah, we have a lot of youth. We probably didn't convert as much as we like, but we give boys a chance that have carried us all year, and we didn't execute the first half, but we knew come the end, down the stretch, if we were still in the game, we probably have a bit more work on the Cross, and I think that showed at the end.
Yeah, and then just on the second half there, going in late, we've already sort of talked about the goal, but you talk about young players a lot. I thought Conor O'Neill tonight really stood up. Were you impressed with what you saw from him?
Yeah, he wasn't on his own. No, James Austin had a big first half. Jack Lavery also went for the championship debut there too. I thought it was outstanding. A corner back driving us forward, and everyone in the county knows the qualities that Callum possesses. And there's no coincidence that he played a lovely ball in for the equalisation goal there. Yeah, and the last question for myself before you get mobbed here, Stefan. Just what confidence can you take from this? It feels like a big point tonight. You've a couple of games left in the group stage, and there must be some belief now in the group. Yeah, no, there's always belief. I just think it's if you go to get Cross, you go to catch them in the hop. It's going to be first time out, as I say. These boys could be preparing for maybe a few weeks down the line, and we've put a tough 6 weeks in, so we thought we matched up quite well against them. We got a deserved point in the end, and we just have to roll on the Mullaball next week.
So Philly, you'd mentioned Drummond and Clevie. You made your co-com debut, I think. Yes, I think it was your co-com debut anyway. How'd you find it?
Probably couldn't have picked a worse match. There's times, and it's probably not the best thing for a co-commentator, but there's times we got stuck for words. Certainly when Clevie went 8 points up, and like, okay, I have to find some words here to explain this or whatever. But listen, you have to be the Drummond person. You obviously have your Drummond hat and everything else on, but you have to be man up as well, just to hold your hands up and say, Drummond, you're beat by better teams on the day. Like Clevie were much slicker, much faster, much more athletic. Seen we liked the match really, if I'm going to be honest. Like, in the first half, Drummond kept with them. Like, I did have the ear of the strong breeze in the first half. Drummond, like, we didn't use it as well as I had hoped. Balls fired over the end line, that type of stuff. And Clevie, again, were passing their passing sequences were just a lot more clinical, a lot more fluid than Drummond. Like, Drummond were pretty much like we were in one day in the league. Like, get the ball in direct, quick and fast, and things just didn't work yesterday for them. Like, so I think it was 6-5 to Clevie at that time, and with like a 4 or 5 point win, I would have called it, in Drummond's favour. That probably wasn't the place Drummond wanted to be at half time, but the way the first half turned out, it would have been okay with that, because maybe they had their chances maybe to get a couple of further points ahead. But the fear was at half time. I spoke with, on my TV commentator Kieran at half time about it. Like, the fear was that with Shea Magill's kicking ability and the breeze, which I think got a little bit stronger in the second half, and maybe I'm just saying that for the when the company had on again, but certainly that fear was kind of came to fruition really in the second half, in terms of, I think, probably halfway through the second half, Clevie were 8 points up with a strong breeze at their back, and it was looking like this could get a wee bit nasty here for Drummond, because it was really one team in it then. They got blackcard Clevie, which Drummond never let the heads down. They kept going for 60 minutes. I think got it back to 6 points, but never really put Clevie under that much pressure that you thought Clevie were ever going to lose the lead or whatever. Like, so despite being a man down for that 10 minutes or so. So disappointing day for Drummond, there's no doubt about it. Your local rivals, that's probably the biggest game Well, it is the biggest game for Drummond folk, and it's the first time we've played Clevie in championship since 2005, I may reckon. And like so, it can hurt those type of defeats, and they can linger on, especially if you look at that. Talking about 18 years there, we had to wait to face each other again. Like so, Clevie will have the bragging rights for hopefully not that long until we face each other again. Who knows? Might face each other later in the championship, but. Listen, Clevie in a good place. They'll be happy after skipping out the gate in Drummond. And some came into the pint or in the club after for a pint, which was like fair play. They certainly enjoyed that and walked out with a smile on their face. But listen, it was all good. The better team won on the day. But this Drummond team isn't done yet. Like there's 2 fixtures, same as any other team really. Like had a negative result at the weekend. Like so, the beauty of the league format is that there's still 2 fixtures to go. Somebody have Nav away next week, and very impressive yesterday, that's for sure. Like we always have great battles with Nav over the years, home and away. Like we always seem to be kind of evenly contested encounters between the 2. Like, and I don't expect next week to be any different. Even though by now they're probably thinking we're in a fine place yesterday after a resounding victory over Mahri away from home. Like so, and they'll have to be full strength. Somebody will have to raise their game. There's no doubt about that, but. I've seen in the past that they do have the capability to do that, like, and hopefully then for their sakes then get a more positive result next week away to Nav and set up then the home fixture against Mahri then in the last round. But as for Clevie, they look pretty slick. Like a lot of their county men really stood up, like Conor O'Neill and Kieran Hanlon really for the goal. Like they were a lovely passes to play against directly from a kick out from the other county man, Shea Magill, like, and a couple of kicks that Shea took were pretty much bag-esque, really, I have to say. Like it was a good situation. Like we didn't have a strong base behind them here actually. 2 for Monteith's keeper, Aidan Morgan Lappy, and so it's my successor, I suppose. Like, and I was delighted to see him play so well. He got a couple of points as well. But as I said in commentary yesterday, normally when the keeper has a good game and makes a few stops, it's because their team is getting a little bit overrun, and that was certainly the case yesterday at times. Like Clevie probably look back and regret a couple of spurned goal scoring opportunities, albeit great saves by Lappy. But for being from Pete, stuck at the end, it's you can put that one to the back burner, bit of work to do in the training ground this week, and get ourselves up for a battle next week and we go again. So positive spin on it.
And on Clevie, Philly, you mentioned Shea Magill, and for anybody that hasn't seen it, the game was recorded it's on Armagh TV for anybody that wants to go and watch it back. 2 massive kicks in that second half from, I don't know, maybe the middle of the field's a bit of a stretch, but certainly it wasn't far from it. Did Clevie lay down a marker yesterday, Philly? Because I know with Mark Beattie on the show last week, and me and him were discussing that it seems to be Cross and Clonairon are the top two top dogs, and then everybody below that. But that is the general feeling, I think, throughout the county from most people that I'd be talking about. But the Clevie, they're maybe going to try to lay down a marker that they should be in that top bracket as well.
Well, there's no better way to do that than go to your local rivals who just got promotion from 1B and fancy themselves. Like it's only a couple of years ago that Drummond won Division 1A, so it's a tough place to go to. I'm sure many teams will say that. Like, but Clevie well deserving of the win. Like they probably did dominate Drummond a large portion of the game, really. Like, and I would call that laying down a marker, really, if you're going to your local rivals there and winning by 6 points and being comfortable, and also finishing the top 4 of 1A, as well as going to the last day of last season as well to win 1A. So they have that bit of credentials about them. Some championship time, like it's a different ball game or whatever. The 2, Cross and Clonairon, I suppose the 2 you mentioned there, like do have that experience of winning in championship in recent years. So that would stand to them more so that Clevie don't have that in recent years, wherever behind them. But listen, after yesterday, they were skipping out the gate. They realised that once it was a good win and all, like they're looking ahead, like they're looking forward. They're moving on now, and the same way we talked about Clans, getting their draw, being positive and everything else, like getting an away win against your local rivals. And moving forward with that in the championship, like that's a good place to be for Clevie. Like so, they'll be chomping at the bit to get the train tomorrow night, wherever the case it be. Like, and looking forward to getting a home fixture there with Mahri next week. They're looking forward to a big crowd, no doubt there. So, listen, if you talk to Cleveland, I'm sure their eyes are focused winning the championship like there's over the years. I lived beside many Cleveland people like, and they would always have high aspirations for their team. Like, so certainly it's a good start for them, but let's see how the rest of the championship pans out, I suppose. So.
Yeah, and as I'd mentioned, Conor O'Neill and Shea Magill spoke Kieran Lynch after the game, so we'll hear what they have to say for a first round win for Cleveland.
Conor, you're off to a good start in the championship, coming away here against your local rivals. How good does that feel to get the win?
That's right, yeah, good to get the win, obviously, against Drummond, so big rivalry there, but I know it's only the first game of the championship, so next two games, McEvoy and Mahri, two tough games, like, so we'll not get too ahead of ourselves and just look forward to next week.
Yeah, and with the group stage, how important was it to get off on the right foot? You don't want to be chasing your tail, I suppose.
Definitely, yeah, we definitely got a tough group, like, so you need to get every point you can into the bank, and we done that today, and that was a goal, and that's what we came out with it.
Yeah, and that sort of third quarter, if you like, the beginning of the second half, that's probably where the winning of the game was. Was there anything said at half time or anything you did differently? Because you certainly came out the stronger of the two teams at the beginning of the second half.
Not really. We knew we had the wind in the second half, so we were going to try to use that a wee bit. We knew we had opportunities in the first half, and we might have just missed them, so we knew the opportunities were going to come, and if we just kept doing what we were doing, the chances we'd go get them, like, so we were lucky that way.
Yeah, and a couple more difficult games to come. You've no time really to rest on your laurels, and I believe it's Mahri next, and another difficult game.
That's it, yeah. Mahri are used to getting to the tail end of the season, and they've won a couple of championships the past couple of years, so look, that'll just be another battle, and we'll prepare for that then train on Tuesday,
Listen, you're off to a good start. You got the win here in Derby Day, and how good of a feeling is it to get the victory?
Yeah, well, it was said in the change rooms that we've actually never beat Drummond in a championship game, so it's good to make a wee bit of history here as well as getting the 2 points.
Yeah, and I suppose probably the win in the game came in that third quarter, at the beginning of the second half. Was there anything said differently at half time, or was there any message, or what was it you feel like?
I think it was just the main message was keep doing what you're doing. The win's not going to win you the game, and just do the basics right. A couple of sloppy mistakes and a couple of power things in the first half that didn't go our way. Possibly 2 goals didn't go our way as well, put them over the bar, but we'll just keep doing what you're doing, do the basics well, and keep the scoreboard ticking over.
Yeah, and for yourself, you must have enjoyed the win at your back. You had a couple of frees slotted over the bar from distance.
I didn't think they were going to make it, not going to lie, but I had to. Happy to get the 2 points and help the team out in any way I can. So
yeah, and probably in the closing stages of the game with the lead you had, it was probably a case of just not allowing Drummond to score a goal, and of course you had a lot of men back behind the ball, but you must have been happy defensively in how you saw the game out.
Well, we were defensively sound, like we didn't see the goal, but we kept overcommitting in attack and making silly fouls, which probably kept them in the game and kept the scoreboard ticking over for them, and that's one thing we're definitely going to tidy up on to want to progress in this championship.
Do you feel like it's more in you?
Definitely. I think we're going and we're huffing and puffing, and when we do go at teams, we look unstoppable. But whenever we're not on it, we look
not so good.
Not so good.
Yeah, and you can't afford to be off it in the next coming games. You've still Mahari and Ballymcnabb to come, and this is just big challenges one after another, isn't it?
Yeah, well, them 2 teams have plenty of experience and played in the big day and athletic grounds a couple of times the past few years, and that's where we want to be in a couple of months' time whenever the championship is over, so hopefully it all goes that way.
And moving on, we'll keep with that group, I suppose. Philly, and you'd mentioned Ballymcnabb and Mahari, a 6-point win for Ballymcnabb away to Mahari, and I know myself, it was a tough place to go, always Mahari, and we were nervous enough, just didn't know what Mahari were going to bring. But we got 2 goals. We got a goal at the start of the game and a goal at the end of the game, which was ultimately the difference in the end. But that it's obviously Ballymcnabb and Drummond now next week, and Cleeby and Mahari. So there's still loads to play for in this group.
There is, and I'd probably be slightly surprised by the result yesterday. I thought we had to talk between Mahari and Ballymcnabb, especially similar to Drummond Cleeby, but on the face of it, then Cleeby and Ballymcnabb were close enough winners in the end with 6 points each. Like, so it didn't happen a man down for a while too. As Cleeby had with the black card the last 10 minutes or so, like, so pretty comfortable for the 2 teams. What I didn't foresee, like, I would have thought like this was labelled to a lot of people. I'd be close to kind of the group of death that Drummond are in, like, and didn't exactly pan out like that. Yes, Drummond and Nab will or Drumty and Mahary, sorry, will have hopefully have something to say about that over the next couple of weekends. But they've work to do. There's certainly Drumty going away to Ballymacbeth. We went through a spell there. It seemed as if whatever league they were dropping in out of, we were doing the same, and Ballymacbeth, and then we always met in championship as well. Like, so, always keenly contested matches between the two. I envisage next weekend to be no different, although Drumty will need to step up their game. With regards to Mahary, I seen them away at Drummondty during the league. I thought they were very poor at the occasion, but they did have their county boys coming back in. So I thought that would give them a big boost, certainly the way Aidan Falker's been playing all year. If he puts in those performances, he can beat a team, any club team on his own in terms of his performances at county level this year. But it is hard to integrate straight back into it. I know from having to do it myself, but also the likes of Ireland, my own team, trying to come in, and there's so much expected of county boys when they come back to their clubs or whatever. And granted it's only the first weekend, so I'm sure Mahary will be chomping at the bit then going up to Clevie next week as well. But yeah, if things don't go Drummondty or Mahary's way next week, then suddenly it's down to the last game in Drummondty, then Drummondty Mahary, to see who gets that coveted third place as opposed to the wooden spoon fourth, when that would be at the minute you have your 2 extra chances to try and rectify things. But if you're finishing fourth in your group, it's season over, which is an absolute disaster for any team. And certainly no team at this stage should be thinking about that. But it is the realization, really, if next week there's a lot of pressure on teams, pretty much the 1B teams, it seems across the board, certainly from Drummondty Mahary next week, they're looking to get a positive result, or it's a do or die. It's not going to be really from there on if they don't get a positive result, yes, next week. But and will be home and homes pretty much. They can figure themselves for 4-2, and then Drummondty's there with Mahary for 3-4. So what originally planned out to be recruitment death could easily be very much split into 2 come next weekend. If you look at the results this week, unless Drummondty and Mahary step up, which I envisage will do, to be fair.
I suppose that we spoke about Drummondty earning promotion, and from 1B, they finished second behind Silverbridge, who were in action last Friday against Madden, and they'd have been coming away fairly disappointed with their result too. Philly, they didn't score in the first half, and they were beat, I think it was 5 points in the end. Madden, to be fair, a bit like Clevie, pushed Clonerne all the way in the league. I think they ended up finishing third on the same points as Cross and Clevie. So maybe is there a bigger gap between 1A and 1B than we sometimes we always seem to think that there's a similar level between the two, but is there a bigger gap? I'm only basing it on them 2 games, and Friday night was a poor night for football weather-wise, so maybe we're reading too much into that.
Maybe, but maybe not really. I suppose I've played in both divisions in recent years, and I suppose back in the day it was always what's the gap between intermediate and senior, and that was always the question: is there that much of a gap between the two? And I never played intermediate, so I'd never really got the grips with was there that much of a gap between the two or whatever. But now with the 1A and 1B, and then both divisions playing in the championship, I've seen a gap, and I felt the gap even when I was playing between certainly the upper tier of 1A and then certainly the lower end of 1B. But Drummondty has found themselves in a precarious kind of position over the last 10 years. And we did win the league a couple of years ago, but our stands in Ballymacbeth seem to be kind of, and Silverbridge to an extent, kind of 1A, kind of challenging in around the bottom of 1A, and normally certainly from Drummondty's perspective, when I was playing, we're kind of we would attack 1B and get promoted, but then not struggle in 1A, but certainly find it a lot tougher, and then be in around the relegation zone to dropping back to 1B. So we found ourselves somewhere in the middle there, but did feel that, I suppose against lower teams in 1B, we would have positive results, but then the bigger teams in 1A, we found that more difficult. Now, if you look at the results at the weekend, I think only Sarsfields and Clans got a positive result. Mullaban were the only 1A team to get beaten. So if you look across that, I think I worked out that across the 6 results that 1A teams won, the average margin of victory was about 6.5 points. So when you look at that, and they're all away fixtures for the 1A teams this week. So when you throw all that into account, I remember I was walking into Drummondty Clevie yesterday, And the word in the street really from the guys I was speaking was that I think home advantage might swing it here with Drummond was the word, and didn't turn out like that, and it didn't turn out like that for the majority of the teams in 1B, and there's a couple of heavy defeats as well there. I know Clonard racked up a pretty good score there and that, like, so judging by this weekend's fixtures, you would definitely say like Mullavan, my wife and that would too pleased me mention this because she's a Mullavan woman, but they got relegated from 1A. And they were the only team from 1A actually to get beat. Like, so in essence, they'll be playing 1B next year. So that's probably they're in that juxtaposition from 1A, 1B type thing. Like, and everyone else in 1A got the victories. Apart from Cross and just with the goals, a difficult game away to Clarence. Like, so from my own personal experience, I think there was a bit of a gap there. Like, I'm seeing that was it 2 years ago, Clarence came from 1B to win the championship. So that was always. In the back of our heads, like we would find ourselves either 1-1, 1A, 1B, and for every team in 1B seeing Clonard do that, give us a kind of extra motivation that I guess, because that probably maybe we bit into the psyche that have to be playing 1A to be, when they're challenging against the best teams week in, week out. Certainly, I think that if being honest with Drummond, yes, we're looking at it. Drummond looked like a team who were playing in 1B all year, and Cleary looked like a team who were competing at the higher end of 1A, and it was the intensity that they brought that some people have just lacking at times yesterday, which wasn't the case in any big match I have seen from this year. So it's actually probably a long convoluted answer there, Sean, like, but there's different parts to it, like, but in essence, I think there is a gap, and certainly by this weekend's fixtures, that would reinforce that thinking. But we could be sitting here next Monday and perhaps 1B teams getting away victories against the 1As, and it's like, you know what, what we said last week was a load of nonsense. Like, but there is, from the outset, all the 1B teams were at home this week, and there was only one victory amongst them all. So that kind of has its own story. But maybe now with the pressure off next week, some 1B teams might play a bit more freedom or whatever else and attack the game and everything else, and it could throw out a few surprises. It'd be interesting next weekend's results if all the 1A teams, pretty much all the 1A teams, get positive results again. You'll see every group almost been split into 1A and 1B anyway. So if it gets to that scenario, that'll be an interesting one, but that's maybe for next Monday morning to have a look at that, and that'll probably tell its own tale. Certainly the top two teams that finish in their groups, like at this stage, look like the majority are going to be 1A teams. But the beauty of a championship is that it can change the flick of the switch, like, and all it takes is a couple of decisions or whatever else. Even yesterday, that Gale Force wind or whatever, like on Friday night with Silverbridge and Madden, like it was pretty ridiculous. Like obviously Silverbridge didn't score first half. I'd imagine it was in large part got to do with that. Silverbridge would have fancied themselves there. Like certainly they were very impressive at times in their last league game away to Drummond the night they won the league. Somebody did get ahead of steam in the second half against them, but they still done enough to pull out the victory away at Drummond and won Division 1B. Now Madden be one of my teams that I never liked facing as a keeper, because I knew there was going to be shots in goal, and I knew it was going to be busy, because Madden have quality forwards there. Like, I know Neil Grimley perhaps isn't back yet from injury, if he put in some performances in championship against us over the years that he would never beat you on his own. Like, so if I'm not quite sure what the time scale is for his return, like, but he would be a massive boost for them. But even without them, they have some quality forwards there. So that was, while it was surprising to see Silverbridge get beaten at home and everything else, like, considering as Madden would be my perennial kind of dark horses really for a championship, like, and you know they're probably one to watch for me. Like I always felt up against it playing against Madden, even with kickouts and all this from mighty men around the middle, like, and they're probably one to watch. Like, but it's like many 1B teams or Silverbridge, like, just have to get the head down, get over the defeat, and go away next week and try and get a positive result, which will set them up into their final weekend then.
Yeah, and also in that group, I think Silverbridge play the Harps next week. So the Harps, they obviously beat Shea O'Neill's on Saturday evening. So we move on to the final group, and this was the final. I think these were two Sunday games. Grange really put in a good shift against Greenmore. Probably surprised a lot of people that with a couple of minutes left, they actually went ahead, but Greenmore scored, I think they got 4 points in a row or something, and pulled away by 2 in the end. And obviously Clonard, we'll hear from Sean McCarthy at the end of the podcast too, but Clonard were super impressive, and just Conor Turbot on his own scored 10 points. He scored the first 6 points for Clonard. and really it was, for large spells, it was a one-man show, but I suppose that's why they're favourites, if not favourites, second favourites for the championship. So two results probably we didn't see coming. I would have thought Clonard were going to be too strong for St. Peter's, but not 15 points stronger.
I don't think anyone would have envisaged that. Like, so credit's due. That's the beauty of having a scorer in your team. Like, it's obviously, it was a good day for Clonard, and yes, hitting 18 points, whatever they hit. Like, but even on an off day for the team, if you have a scorer like Turbo in your team, like, you always have a chance. Like, it's as simple as that. And someone as reliable as Turbo too. Like, we've seen it when they won the championship a couple of years ago. Like, in the final itself, like, someone that drives you over the line. And certainly as a keeper looking up the pitch, if you someone up there that's going to produce the goods that kind of on the majority of the days, certainly in the big days, you've someone up there who's going to hit whatever 6-7 points, maybe a goal as well. Like, it puts you in a good place, gives you an extra confidence as a defender and midfielders and everything. It gives the whole team that belief that we just get the ball up to, in this case, Turbo, like, and he'll do the damage up there. Like, and obviously there's other ways to contribute to the scoreboard as well at the weekend. Like, but and that's key. Bring it on to. I always think you need that focal point up front. It's going to drive things on, like, and probably the teams who got beaten over the weekend will probably have that player, perhaps. But if you do have that player in your team, like, you can certainly go places. Won the league, whatever, and they've also won championship in the recent years. Like, so they have won things like in terms of Lawrence part of that. Like, he's a young lad yet, really, like, so they pushed it more even further, and that's why they're up there, I suppose. And rightly so, I've been one of the favourites. Because obviously Cross had Rian and stuff like that. Like, so just if you have that superstar forward or whatever you want to call them, like, come championship time, like, they're key. Like, I've seen it in various teams I'm involved with, like, even outside the county. Like, when you come across a team that has a standout player, like, that can be the difference maker. Like, if you don't have them, it's really an uphill battle at times. Like, you're constantly relying on every chipping in and everything else. But listen, that's terms of football, and the best thing will prevail at the end. Like, and it's normally the ones who have the best scores and everything else that come out of it. Like, so yeah, Clare's in a good place. They'll be happy with themselves. In terms of Grange, I've seen a couple of times in the league, like, and they seem very weak. From talking to Ethan maybe after the games, he obviously was involved in the games, but just chatting to him, they were missing players. Only Two McCann has certainly never played against strong team. Like, they're two great footballers. He's love playing against them two guys, like, but I'm not quite sure there's injuries and travel and everything there. I know there's a few other bodies that Ethan mentioned too, and unfortunately Ethan himself succumbed to an injury recently. Like, so a few body blows for Graham's been into it, like, but that's a stellar performance they put up against Graham Moore is no easy task in championship finalists last year. Like, so the feel that perhaps was to be happy with the performance. I'd imagine Queens, like, the probably feel as if they maybe left the results behind them, or maybe left to kind of slow a draw or whatever towards the end there. Like, but going forward, they took a few heavy defeats in 1B this year, Queens. Like, so I would advise them to take plenty of confidence. And Chris Rafferty knows there, like, so plenty of confidence and get into the next weekend's fixtures and see if certainly they're not done and dusted just yet. Like, they're in similar position to many teams there that just with one defeat, but they've got a positive performance behind them, which is perhaps more than some other teams. Like, so they can build on that, and they'll be looking to get a draw or a win next weekend to set up the following weekend. But by no means, no team at this stage is out of it. That's the beauty of the league format. Like, so there's definitely on the paper, no matter what the result was at the weekend.
And as I say, there's loads of football to be played and loads of action coming up, and we'll be all across that as usual. And we'll hopefully have another preview show coming up this weekend. Thursday usually our preview shows, and we'll be covering everything with our team of the week coming up as well. On Tuesday with our top scorers from senior, intermediate, and junior all across the championships. With our top scorers coming up on Tuesday or Wednesday as well, and then we'll start previewing the weekend's action. Just before we wrap up, a big thank you to Philly for coming on. Thank you to Capture Athletics for sponsoring the show for the duration of the championship, and thanks to Kieran Lynch for compiling a few of the interviews that you heard throughout the podcast. We're going to finish with one from Sean McCarthy, and I spoke to him after the Clonard game. So, Philly, great to hear from you. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Sean.
So I'm delighted to be joined by Shea McCarthy here. He was part of the Clonard team that just saw St. Peter's in the first round of the senior championship. The first round, Sean, but the last game of the weekend, you just had to wait till 6 o'clock on Sunday here for this game.
Yeah, it's I was a bit chaotic like waiting for a 6 o'clock Sunday. I know there's a lot of good work put in to get the games on the Friday, and it's really good getting the game on the Friday and you get your weekend, but sure, it's Championship Sundays.
And you're coming here expecting a challenge, and to be fair, in the first couple of minutes, St Peter's they got the first point and got the game up and running. But I think Conor Turbot, we need to talk about him. He got 10 points this evening, and he got the first 6 points for you, and he controlled the game himself nearly, didn't he?
Yeah, Conor's Conor. Everyone knows Conor, but look, you're coming down here, you come to St Peter's, like a derby's a derby, and like when you're playing a Lurgan team and you're playing St Peter's, this is where you really learn the emotions. Like, this is where you see these people out in the street all the time. This really is where they fully expecting big games all the time, coming and playing derbies.
And a massive crowd here. It was the whole of Lurgan was here nearly.
Yeah, I was expecting that though. There's always big crowds for Lurgan derbies, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant always seeing a big crowd out, and yeah.
And I suppose that's the joy of the group stages, is you come to these, it wasn't in athletic grounds or wherever else he's come. St Peter's have home advantage, and there's a huge crowd here, and that's probably one of the positives of the group stages.
Yeah, and St Peter's pitch today was absolutely brilliant. I couldn't complain about it. The facilities are brilliant, the hall's brilliant, they've got a good 3G behind it. There's everything's brilliant here. St Peter's have great facilities.
And I suppose the group stages, Sean, how do you feel about it? Because I know obviously the first win is nearly guaranteed a playoff place at the least, but there's a lot of games to be played week on week here.
I think to be honest, I think it's good because I think if you're only playing one game, one championship game, and that's it over, it can be hard done by. Like, I remember being on the receiving end of it before, and it's just not a good way to go. And at least this way you get three games and you're playing 3 different oppositions. I think it really helps develop, especially teams coming through, maybe in the lower side of Division 1, and Division 2 and Division 3. It just helps them develop, so I think it's good all around for Armagh football.
And that was probably the thing for you last year, was the first round knockout game.
Yeah.
It just, you lose on the day and you're gone, and your whole season's over.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Did you carry that hurt in? Do you carry it in today and maybe for the remainder of the championship?
Absolutely, how could you not, you're absolutely.
Because it was such a gut-wrenching defeat for you, but you bounced back. Obviously winning the league was a big thing for you, and you've done that this year.
Yeah, look, winning the league's great and all, but the league's the league.
Yeah, it's all championship, isn't it?
It's all championship, and yeah, fair play. Mullabon beat us last year. They did their homework, they got everything right on the night, and they beat us, and we were the better team, and yeah, it does hurt. That's just the way football goes.
And the championship, obviously, there's a lot of people talking about Clonard as being top contenders. Obviously, Crossmaglen, the reigning champions, they're always going to be the favourites. You had Clonagale last night, really putting in a good shift and getting a draw with them. Clevey had a big win today. It's a tight championship, Sean, isn't it? There's maybe 4 or 5 teams we could pick out that could have genuine contentionship.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Even you're looking at the league, there was the league could have went anywhere. You've got a number of great teams. Yeah, it's definitely wide open. I'm looking around, and it doesn't matter really who you get. You know you're going to be getting a quality side, and yeah, it's I just think it's good. There's a lot of competition. Clonagale did well last night. Crossmaglen are obviously Crossmaglen. They're always going to be thereabouts. Madden's on the up. Clevey will definitely be playing, going for the championship. And any number of teams. I know the Silver Bridge lost, but I thought they were eyeing it up. They were in a similar situation to us, and it just could go anywhere.
And your own group obviously is of last year's beaten finalist Greenmore in. They beat Grange by 2 points today, which was probably a lot closer than people would have expected. And I think you have to go to Grange next week now.
We go to Grange and then we're home to Greenmore. So yeah, I haven't played Grange in a while, and Greenmore is always a good game of Greenmore. I'll be coming away sore from that game. That's interesting. I thought that's a good performance by Grange.
But that's championship football. You said we're coming away, so they're going to be so intense now over it, and the fact that there's 3 weeks in a row, it's just there's so much football on. It's going to be so hard for players.
Yeah, it's intense. We're playing today. 6 days time we're playing the Grange, and then I think it's maybe 7 or 8 days we're playing Greenmore. So it's intense, but yeah, everyone's in the same boat. And
I asked you about Conor Turbot. I'll just go back to him today. 10 points today. How easy was it when you're centre half back and you're coming up the field, or whoever it is coming up the field, that you just have to give Turbo the ball and he'll put it over the bar?
There's a lot more work goes into it. Just give it to Turbo. Granted, he does a lot of work, but there's 14 odd guys doing a lot of work, and when Conor gets the ball, it's brilliant. But it's not just give it to him, right, and good luck. You're creating space for him, and but look, we fully understand Conor's one of the best full forwards in Ireland at the moment, so like give it to him, you don't go too far wrong, and just bust it up to try and get him as much space as you can.
And he probably has that experience now, all playing through Armagh, played most of the games this year. If he didn't start, he was coming in. He has that experience of playing Division 1 football. It's the championship final. He's carrying that form into the club scene too, isn't he?
Okay, when Turbo came back and TK and Barry, they lifted the whole thing. They're good leaders, and they're the same age as me, like, but TK younger, but they're real leaders in the team, and they talk with experience, and they talk well, and then you've got the likes of like Dackie Latham, Ryan Henderson, Conor McConville, Colin Carl. Like, you've got any number of boys that are step up and can lead on the day. So yeah, definitely Conor's brilliant, but there's definitely a whole lot more than just one boy.
Honestly, you're talking about experiences, or minus two big experience heads in Shea Heffern and Owen Holland. Abandon is there away living life in Australia?
Look, Owen's away in Australia, and Shea's away in, God, he's in a lot of places. He was in Japan and South Korea and Philippines and Australia as well. And how could you blame anyone to live their life like that? You know, absolutely go out and enjoy yourself, and like, don't get me wrong, I'd absolutely love them to be here, but like, you couldn't hold any grudges for going out and really just living their lives, like, and it's brilliant. And look, by them going out and spending a year or two away, maybe they'll stay here, when they come back they'll play football for longer, like, because you could be, at the same time, football's brilliant, but it can be an anchor, like.
Yeah, they could come back refreshed, and that's all what everybody in the county doesn't want to hear. No. But Sean, thanks for your time. Brilliant to have you on. And